Welcome back to Perspective, and today we are discussing we're calling it the Matiang'i factor. You do remember when he was the education CS, he did make some radical changes in the education sector, and those are bearing fruits right now. And when he was the ICT, you do remember even the ICT CS, he even touched on issues of digital migration. When he was christened and nominated as the Interior Cabinet Secretary, he really got a lot of support and applause. Right now, he chairs the powerful Cabinet Subcommittee on National Development. And of course, it's somebody we can say he is always on the news. Some say he's a bit abrasive, but that is exactly what we are going to delve into. And joining me on set, on my immediate left, Counsel Steve Mogaka, who is a constitutional lawyer. Karibu sana, Counsel. I haven't seen you this year.
Well, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
To the viewers also, actually, this is my first time on air. I'm only a week old out
indeed.
of travel, yeah.
Thank you so much for gracing the program.
Sure.
And of course, we have our leadership and governance expert, Job Ndege. Karibu sana, Bwana Job. Of course, we are discussing the Matiang'i factor, but there are some current affairs that we just have to. We have limited time, but a minute each. We had the Council of Governors elections. What do you make of it, Ndege?
No, I think the results were that the governors have confidence in the leadership of Oparanya and Mwangi wa Iria. They opted for continuity, which is good. So that gives Mwangi wa Iria and Governor Oparanya another year to carry on with the affairs of the Council of Governors. Yeah, and that continuity, I think, is good. And they give it that you know that the President and the Prime Minister has also given the governors some big task of spearheading the BBI initiative across the Republic. Yeah, that given that they've already started, that also is important, so that whatever steps that they have started can continue. And continue is always good for anything which is happening well.
Council, what do you make of the COG elections today?
No, COG elections, I think, went as expected because they have been managing. Particularly the interface between national government and the devolved government. I think the team in office now has navigated very well, so much so that we did not see a lot of heat being generated, as was the case with the previous COG head. So I think that team maintained is good for the devolved units, it's good for the national government, it's also good for the country, because then we can see a synergy between national government and county governments. And that is how the constitution was designed. That we need to have two levels of government, but it is a seamless government of the Republic of Kenya. So kudos to the governors for giving this team sufficient time to spend their energies and deliver.
Okay. Thank you for that. Then there's a new directive that those VIPs are facing charges in court. Their firearms and their security detail will be whisked away. Of course, we know very well it also falls squarely on Matiang'i's, Dr. Matiang'i's docket. What do you make of it?
Yeah, that is a directive, and directives are what they are. But when they affect individual persons, because individual persons also have rights, because once somebody has acquired a license, it means they qualified for that license. And any arbitrary withdrawal of that license will just face what Makawa's directive on the University of Nairobi has faced. Because with tremendous respect to public officers, once somebody has acquired a right, and this goes back to the cases of withdrawing of hotel licenses and things of that nature. Let there be due process. Let us not have wholesale condemnation of everybody, because I may be having a firearm license, and I may be facing criminal charges or corruption charges, which have nothing to do with the abuse of the license to possess a firearm.
Yes, yes.
So nobody should be unduly condemned because allegations have been made against them, which have not been proved before a court of law.
Job, are we putting our VIPs at risk? Some people have commented on social media. Some have lauded the effort, but some have said, no, this is actually putting our VIPs in an undue risk.
Yes, more so if they had asked for the firearms because they felt that they needed them for protection. Then, of course, if you withdraw it, then they're going to be at risk.
Yes.
But on the counter, some of our VIPs have actually misused their firearms. And adding on to what the council is saying, if it is proven that you have misused your firearm, then you don't deserve it. Because some of these liberties and freedoms, you enjoy them to the extent that you do good with them and you don't actually harm others. Yeah, but where you see that you use your privilege to brandish threatening and such activities, or take advantage of the fact that you are armed to mess with other people, then you don't deserve that. And in fact, look at chapter 6 of our constitution. How you behave in public, not only should it make you not even have that firearm, you should actually resign. In fact, there's some things that we take for granted as Kenyans, which we ourselves in 2010 actually put in the constitution. A case of an officer behaving badly is enough to actually stop you exercising that office.
Okay.
On your own violation, without even waiting for Matiang'i to give an order or some court to give an order.
Okay, away from that, Mr. Matiang'i himself, Doctor, has been called Mr. Fix-It, Mr. President's Mr. Fix-It. He has been called a super CS. Is he really a good worker, or is just that opportunities have really presented himself very well?
No, he's a good worker because it has been proven. It's at least we have a history behind us. Dr. Fred Matiang'i has been holding at least 4 portfolios since President Uhuru took over in 2013. ICT, education, interior, and then he acted at Lands at some point. And all these 4 portfolios, you can actually point out something good that he has done. Anybody who has a position only gets judged by how well you do that position, and if people will remember you well in the position that you hold. And you rightly said when you started, if you count Matiang'i's landmark achievements in some of these portfolios, when he was the Minister for ICT, the digital migration, it was so important for this country. In fact, in furtherance to the freedom of expression, in furtherance of communication, Kenya's achieved communication, we needed many frequencies. And we got lucky that due to technological advances, these opportunities will come by moving towards what's called digital. Digital actually could compact this frequency so you can have many channels, both of TV and radio and other communications. And people really resisted, like we often do when there's change. But this guy was resolute. Dr. Matiang'i said,
and some are
we are going to fix
that
this.
He's being groomed for something else bigger. We've seen his meticulous rise as a CS. And now some are talking about him being groomed for something much bigger.
He doesn't have to be groomed. In fact, he should go for something bigger. When you do well in the public or state service, really you need to move up. And from the CS, up means up. So I won't be surprised if he himself will actually opt to ask Kenyans in any new dispensation to move him up.
Okay. Council, is he being groomed for something bigger? Job says he actually needs just to move for the big thing.
No, he's actually not being groomed. The truth is that this is one man who God has given grace that whatever he handles, he seems to be leaving an impact. Which begs the question, is it that in Kenya we are thriving on mediocrity, so that one, Dr. Fred Matiang'i comes and whenever you give him an assignment, he accomplishes? Does it speak of the quality of his peers in whatever assignments he is doing? And, or does it speak to our standards as Kenyans on who we are considering to these positions, so that we carry people who do not belong to that league, so that when we have Fred Matiang'i, he shines. Is it because of that? But one thing you cannot take away from him is that whatever assignment he has undertaken, he has left an indelible mark. And true, I can't agree more with my friend that even if it were not that he needs to be groomed, this is a resource this country requires, and it needs to be utilized optimally. And should there be an assignment more challenging, then I think this is the kind of quality that Kenyans should be looking for to change this country and put it where it belongs in the Committee of Nations.
Yes, Job, some have talked about, of course, his work can be seen in all the ministries that he has held, including the lands. And I remember some talking about when he became the Interior CS, some maybe he rubbed shoulders the wrong way with a lot of politicians. They talked about he has a big ego, talking about he's too abrasive, and now he has entered the murky waters of politics. What is your take on that?
Well, people talking about him entering politics, I think looking at this BBI scenario, what people forget is that the BBI is actually a project of President Uhuru Kenyatta. So it's rightfully so a government project. The Constitution in Article 131, 1E, declares that the president needs to be a symbol of national unity. And then 131, 2C says that the president needs to enhance and build national unity. It so happens that we had the issues in 2017 elections, and then when the president met the former prime minister, they agreed that one of the things they need to do is to do these building bridges. Now, these building bridges, its key plank is to unify Kenya. So when the president takes BBI, you can also argue that he's actually doing his constitutional mandate. And the cabinet secretaries are obligated to support the president's initiatives.
It's in their job description.
It's their job description. So when Matiang'i goes out there and talks very loudly about BBI, or Wamalwa, the CS, or Munya, or whoever, they are supposed to. And in fact, those who don't want to do that needs to actually resign. Because the president is saying this is what we do. So people are saying Matiang'i is doing politics, but he's not doing politics. He's just doing what the president wants to do, which is his work.
In fact, looking at the conduct and speeches of Dr. Matiang'i when he is in that setup, it shocks me that he is not only a super worker, but also super intelligent, because he is able to push the official agenda with a lot of passion, but yet not importing any politics into it, because BBI is, as it were, a high-voltage political business. But when you see the conduct of Eugene, and particularly Dr. Fred Matiang'i, I was out of the country but watched how he addressed the meeting in Kisii. I was surprised that he was not carried into the politics but focused on his, his eyes were strictly on the ball, which is really commendable. And
please, on the emerging Matiang'i factor among the region, the people of the region, we've seen some groups saying that if at all he will be seeking for a much bigger post, we are behind you. Can he really go to all the way to the top and become perhaps the spokesman when it comes to the region? Because he has a national appeal.
Yeah, I mean, Matiang'i is just a national figure, and there is no way you can box him to become a regional spokesperson or something like that. Because to do so is to dwarf him. Because this is, if you asked me, a national giant who this country needs to utilize to deliver on very many challenging areas that has made this country what it should not look like. I mean, you can also not take it away from the region where he hails from, because regions always are quick to rise up and try to own one of the celebrities who hail from there. That also you cannot take away from them, because that is a birth region, that is their birthright, and they see these are their kin and kith, and therefore they are entitled to celebrate. But that should not overshadow, you know, the work that this country needs to be done. And the fact that this single person has consistently demonstrated that he is equal to the task that is given. And perhaps if you asked me, I would like this country since 1963 at the top has been led by politicians. Perhaps it is time Kenyans started thinking, do you need a technocrat at the top so that we can fix this country once and for all, so that we are able to compete with Korea, South Korea, and Singapore? Perhaps that is the discussion that this country should be having, aside from BBI and the political, you know, fires that it ignites. If you ask me, this country should be looking at Dr. Fred Matiang'i as a person who should provide economic solutions, social solutions, governance solutions, and to be able to marshal and police people towards achieving certain objectives that will translate this country to where it belongs.
And Job, we've seen a lot of groupings, and especially people are aligning themselves. Region are also aligning themselves as we speak. Are we likely to see perhaps leaders from various groupings actually who want perhaps to be identified as the spokesperson or the X factor when it comes to the region?
Yes, that has been the bane of our politics. Our politics has been tribal and then regional. And thus far it has been that for you to have a seat on the high table, you either come with your tribe or you come with your region. So with that kind of politics still prevailing, which is something that I hope that we are going to change when we have the new dispensation, then you'll find people jostling for power at the tribal level or at the regional level, so that they get invited to the high table. And therefore that's why you hear some tension at points when there is some national event or like even a region, there's tension between the various leaderships, each of them wanting to be the one to outshine the others and to appear like, this is my region. So if you want to talk to this region, then you need to look for me. Yes. So it is prevailing, but it's not good politics. We need to evolve from that into issue-based. Our political parties should be issues-based, and the people championing them should be seen as issue evangelists, rather than a tribal chieftain or a regional bigwig or a politician for that matter, as we move forward.
I know we are pressed for time, but there is a Senate speaking special sitting tomorrow to discuss the impeachment of Governor Waititu. What do you make of it, Council?
Yeah, that's a statutory...
Actually, let me cut you short. I remember in December, when we were doing the end of year, we talked with you and you talked about a solution. And even somebody called me and asked me, what exactly did you mean by around 6 months, everything to be done and concluded?
No. It's because from the time the court barred Governor Waititu from office, it is not clear who then is governor of Kiambu. Until this impeachment process came up, and really this is the way to remove governors from office, until this impeachment process goes through, then you cannot interfere with the tenure of governor. And I said, last time when you hosted me, I said that, I mean, as a country, we need a solution. Because if the courts have stamped the authority that once you take a plea on a criminal or corruption charge, then you are barred from office. I can't wait to see what they do with Babu Owino, how they will bar him from office. But what I said is, as a country, we need a conversation as to if we must bar elected members from office, for how long. And that is why I was like, since we conduct all electoral cases and petitions within a period of 6 months, and there are many, and we conclude them, do we not then need to say that these people who are elected were never faced with any case? It should be determined within 6 months. So that now we should have finished the case for, what do you call this, governors?
Sospita
Ojamong. This case should have ended long ago. The case for
Leonard
Kulal in Turkana, was it? Pokot? Should have ended. We should be in media with Kiambu, and we should have got running with Nairobi.
Yes.
But an indefinite bar from office is a bit is awkward, if you ask me. Is a bit awkward and creates a constitutional crisis, including disenfranchising the people who mandated that person to get to the office. So this, in my view, was the reason why I was recommending that perhaps the country needs to, cap the duration when a case of an elected person should be conducted, particularly when it
comes to elective positions.
Yes.
Right. Job, your take on that?
Yes, I concur with most of what he's saying. But from a leadership and governance perspective, if I'm the one having executive authority, though elected like the governors are, then I cannot also be at the scene of where this impropriety happened. I'm going to be prone to tampering with evidence. I'm going to threaten a few people. So I support what Justice Mubingogi said. Yeah, these guys need to be away. But yes, administratively, in fact, even without talking of law, the Chief Justice, as I said this the other day here, there need to be some timelines on how long corruption cases should take. Nothing stops the Chief Justice from administratively saying these cases should be taking 3 months, and his officers his officers should be able to do that. And then those which require changes in law, like for the elected officers, we can do that. Parliament should be able to do that. And this is when I hear parliamentarians talk of why should not be doing the BBI and whatever. There's some basic things that Parliament on its own violation should be doing to help this country move forward. Parliament has been the weakest link in fighting corruption. The president has tried in the executive. Parliament is number last. The judiciary is in between. They are not very well doing it. Neither are they the worst as Parliament is.
Indeed.
Yes.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Unfortunately, you're out of time. Thank you so much, Counsel Steve Mogaka, who is a constitutional lawyer, and of course, Job Ndege, who is a leadership and governance expert and our resident analyst. Always a pleasure hosting you, gentlemen. Thank you indeed. We are back on our news, where the government is working to